Right, so just as I just mentioned, for those of you just joining us, we were just providing everyone a moment to get logged in and be able to hear us okay and see us okay before we get started. But I think we'll get on our way now with beginning the information we have to share with you this afternoon. So for those of us who just joined us, thank you for taking the time to be with us here today and hear about the updates coming to you from SkilledTradesBC. As I mentioned, my name is Craig Woods, and I'm one of the facilitators that will be with you this afternoon. And shortly, I'll turn things over to my colleagues to also introduce themselves. But for now, let's get started into the presentation we have to share with you all today. So as mentioned, I'm Craig Woods, External Relations Advisor and overseeing the external relations work of the organization and one of your key facilitators. But I'm going to turn things over to Shaun to also introduce himself now.
Thanks, Craig. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Shaun Cox. I'm the manager of the Skilled Trades Certification Department. I'm one of 14 in the team now that we get out and we talk to industry and employers around skilled trade certification and about the roles and responsibilities that employers will have, which we can unpack a lot more in the presentation to come. So yeah, thank you for joining us. I'll hand it over to Charlene.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Charlene Dornson, and I'm an apprenticeship advisor on the South Island in Victoria. I started with Skilled Trades in August, really enjoying being a part of the team. As an apprenticeship advisor, I provide support to apprentices, stakeholders, training providers, and employers as well.
Great, perfect. And thank you, Charlene and Shaun, for joining us here today as well. All right, so moving forward, before we really get into the content of the day, just wanted to let everyone out there to know that this is a Zoom webinar process, which means all participants will be muted during the presentation. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can interact with us though in a moment. But I also wanted to let everyone know that the session is being recorded, just in case some questions come in towards the end that might require some detailed responses that we don't have time to address. So because you're muted though, and in this webinar format, we do still encourage you to ask us questions around the information we share with you here today. And so the way that we're asking for you to do that is by using the Q&A function as part of the Zoom webinar platform. So if you all would scroll down to the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen. If you click on that and open up that box, it'll open a dialog box. And in that, it'll allow you to type in and enter questions that you may have. And what's great about that is others will be able to see your questions as well. And so they may be able to like that and or not necessarily duplicate questions as we go through the presentation. We really encourage you to enter questions in as we go, but I'll also note that we're actually going to pause to answer questions at the end. And at that point in time, if you have more questions, ask us. We encourage you to do so at that point in time as well. Great, so look forward to hearing from you in terms of questions you have, what we have to share. But with that, and without further ado, let's move into some of the information we'd like to share with you today. And to start off with, of course, we want to let everyone know that SkilledTradesBC and our head office is located in the unceded Coast Salish territory and the traditional lands of the Musqueam people. We acknowledge this as a guest to this territory and the traditional lands. We also recognize and acknowledge the 203 to 204 other First Nations that make up this province as we serve the province as a whole. So what we're going to do is walk through you a little bit about SkilledTradesBC and help you understand what that means, the name change, and how we are different, and how we are the same to how we used to operate under ITA. And then we're going to spend a lot of the day talking about the biggest change and difference, and that is the introduction of skilled trade certification. And then as mentioned at the end, we're going to make sure there's time so that we can do some question and answer session work with everyone here in the audience. So to start with, a little bit about SkilledTradesBC. So who are we? What do we do? So who we are is an organization and specifically a Crown corporation, fully owned under the Ministry of Post-Secondary Education and Future Skills. And we're here to help advance BC's skilled trades system and create an inclusive world-class skilled trades workforce that helps meet the needs of British Columbians. Many of you, if you're familiar with us, will know us better as the Industry Training Authority, or ITA. We are one and the same. We're the same organization. We've just gone under a name change as part of the introduction of having a new act that I'll talk about in a little while here. But we are the same service with an expanded mandate. So a little bit more now about the services of what we do. So one of the primary things we do is support people, primarily supporting sponsors and apprentices in the trades training system, helping to guide them and apprentices and their employers through the apprenticeship journey to help become journey people. We also encourage people to enter the skilled trades and helping to understand and share the value of a career in the trades. And we also spend a lot of our time supporting people by promoting equity, diversity, inclusion in the trades, and helping to fund and support underrepresented groups as well to enter the trades and trades training system. Another key part of what we do in addition to supporting people is supporting the standards that make up the programs, trades training programs that we offer. So that means regular reviewing and updating of over 100 trade programs that meets the needs of our economy and labor force here in BC. It also means overseeing and issuing the credentials to trades workers to help recognize their valuable certification. And in addition to supporting people and the standards, we also support funding. So we're the ones who provide funding to training providers around the province to deliver the excellence in apprenticeship training that apprentices can tap into. So as an overview, that's what we do in its essence, and that has always been the case under the banner of ITA, and it continues to be what we do as SkilledTradesBC. But a little bit on the transformation. As I mentioned, we now operate under a new act, and that's because we're wholly owned by government, and government put a new act into place. And that all started back in June 2021 when then Premier John Horgan made an announcement to move forward with skilled trade certification, or otherwise known as compulsory and mandatory trades. But I'll leave that for now, as Shaun will talk more about that later. But with that introduction of change, then we in government went through the summer and fall of 2021, doing a number of engagement activities with industries and employers and with Indigenous partners on 4 key regulation areas that also will be touched on by Shaun later. And then March of 2022, last year, government introduced SkilledTradesBC Act in the legislature, receiving royal assent, which then went into place and into force December of just last year, where the SkilledTradesBC Act and regulations began to come into effect. And so that's who we are, more of what the same from ITA, and working harder and more focused on helping to unlock more opportunities for people in the trades, to better build inclusivity, and to help create valuable journeys for apprentices and sponsors along the way. So more specifically on the introduction of the new act, it involved expanding upon our current mandate. And so the work we had done under the banner of ITA did focus on helping to raise a profile of skilled trades. It's now a more formal part of the work we will do moving forward under SkilledTradesBC. We will also continue to work on with more focus on modernizing our approaches to apprenticeship. And then the biggest piece of change will be the implementation of skilled trades certification. So what does it mean to help raise a profile of skilled trades? Well, for starters, we're hoping that our new name will help better reflect the work that we do, and that will help with just a different sort of approach to how we approach things as well. It'll help with the building awareness of the well-paying and sustainable careers that is the trades. We'll continue to focus and build upon helping share opportunities, helping those that may not understand or be familiar with trades as a career get introduced to that as an option. And better support, again, as we mentioned, removing barriers to allowing underrepresented groups and those typically not in the trades to be included, and to help create inclusive workplace environments and training position environments for those who want to have a career in the trades. When it comes to modernize our approach, a few key things come into play there. One is for us to continue to stay on top of and developing a strategic plan. And so we are currently working on a new 3-year plan with our new expanded mandate. It includes also keeping our digital services up to date and available to our customers, being apprentices and sponsors. And a key example of that is we now have a new self-serving portal for apprentices and sponsors to be able to access and provide information on the apprenticeship journey. And we will also continue to build upon leveraging data to improve not only the services we provide, but our own organizational performance. And the last big piece of this is the introduction of skilled trade certification and its implementation. And so with that, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Shaun, who's going to take some time here to walk you through what that means. So over to you, Shaun.
Thanks, Craig. Hi, everyone. Like I mentioned at the start, I will be, and as Craig just mentioned, I'm going to walk you through what skilled trade certification is and what it means for you. But certainly this is not just the one and done of skilled trade certification. There's lots of opportunities for engagement after the webinar through our team. So yeah, we'll do what we can to answer the questions. So basically, skilled trade certification is commonly referred to as mandatory or compulsory trades. That's what it's known across in other provinces of Canada. Within BC, there has been 10 trades that have been identified as skilled trade certification trades, and they're put into 3 different clusters. We have the electrical cluster, as you can see, with construction electrician, industrial electrician, and power line technician. Then you've got the mechanical with refrigeration, gas A, B, steam fitter, pipe fitter, and sheet metal, and then the automotive with heavy duty tech, automotive service tech, and auto body collision and technician. A few things with this. At the moment, the focus is the electrical and the mechanical trades in terms of getting out and speaking to employers. The automotive trades will not be come into play until 2024. So if you're from the automotive sector and you're looking at this and you're wondering what you have to do, there's nothing you have to do at the moment. But if you are in the electrical or the mechanical trades and you're uncertified, then there's some pathways to get certified, which we'll talk about in the next couple of slides. Firstly, why is it important? Well, it's been identified by the government that there's going to be 85,000 skilled trade career opportunities in the next decade. And to be able to get one of these opportunities, you have to have certification. So by implementing skilled trade certification, the hope is that it gets more people into to be certified or into the apprenticeship system, which then makes them a better option to take one of these 85,000 jobs in the next decade. And the other really big one that a lot of people aren't aware of, we were the only province in Canada that didn't have any mandatory or compulsory trades. Every other province in Canada has a list of trades, and it varies from province to province, which we'll look at the next slide. But BC was the only province that didn't have this. We used to have it about 20 years ago, and then it was taken away, I believe, in 2003. So for best part of 2 decades, we've been operating without compulsory trades. Here's just a few graphics to emphasize that point. You can see the one on the left-hand side. You'll quite noticeably see that BC is the only one that doesn't have any ticks in the column there, and yet all the other provinces do. It's worth noting, and this talks about it on the next slide, that not all trades are compulsory across different provinces. So you can have a look there. Alberta's about 17 or 18. Quebec is at 20. Northwest Territories up to 25. So it did vary across the province, but across the country, I should say. But one thing that was evident is that BC had none of that, as you can see there. Leading up to this, there was a fairly lengthy and extensive engagement done by the provincial government around implementing skilled trade certification. They spoke to the likes of apprentices, trades workers, unions, Indigenous partners, New Canadians, and other groups to really get feedback around what the ramifications will be with this being implemented, and the consequences, and right across all aspects of the workforce, not just a specific group. In addition to the government's engagement that they did, us then, as Craig mentioned, as the ITA, we led an engagement as well, very similar to what the government did in terms of audience and reaching out to the vast majority of workers. But our engagement focused on 4 key areas, and that's exemptions, temporary authorizations, journey person to apprentice ratios, and then the scope of work. And again, like the government, we spoke to apprentices, we spoke to employers, we spoke to unions, Indigenous partners, real large cross-section of the workforce to try and get feedback on what's going to happen. And also provincial-wide, we're very cognizant of the fact that this is not just a Lower Mainland thing. This has impacts from Haida Gwaii to Cranbrook to Fino and to Fort St. John. So we really went to every corner of the province and spoke to people about this. How will it would be implemented? As I mentioned before, we are in the middle of a transition period. So for the electrical and the mechanical trades, they came into STC or skilled trade certification on December 1st, 2022. Then there's this 12-month transition period, which we're currently in the midst of now. This is where myself and my team of advisors are out in the province speaking to employers, letting them know what the roles and responsibilities they are as an employer to become compliant. And that's just really figuring out if you've got uncertified workers, where you can get them certified. And we talk about that in the next couple of slides, and also the ratio as well, ensuring that that they're going to meet the 2-to-1 ratio of 2 apprentices to 1 journey person for those trades. Who's impacted with this? Well, if you're a registered apprentice and you're working in one of those 10 skilled trade certification trades, there's no impact at all. You continue to work, continue to train out and get through to completion so you can get your journey person certificate. If you are a journey person and you're working in one of those trades, no impact for you at all. You keep going. And then obviously if you are either an apprentice or a journey person not in one of those 10 identified trades, no impact for you at all. You just continue. This has nothing to do with you. It's really focusing on those 10 trades. Who is impacted? The main people that are going to be impacted are the uncertified workers that are working in one of those trades. And what we have is 3 really distinct pathways to get those people on the pathway to certification, depending on their experience. So if we look at the first one there, the prospective apprentice, this is an uncertified worker that has little to no experience, and we look at the 1,800 hours. So if you have uncertified workers that fit that bracket, that they're under 1,800 hours, we would recommend that they would be a prospective apprentice, perhaps start from level 1 and get them on that pathway to certification. The other category is a worker that does have some experience, and that's between 1,800 and 5,400 hours. And they can take a level exam or be a level challenger. And what that means is, depending on the hours that they have experience, they could start off their apprenticeship in a level 2 or a level 3, depending on their hours of that they have. We want to make sure that we recognize people's experience, because they could have worked for a couple of years and not been certified, but picked up a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge about a certain trade. We want to take that knowledge and skills and make sure that we can slot them into the appropriate level and make sure that they don't have to go back to the start. And then the third category is the experienced worker. So this is an individual that has been working for over 5 years, close to 6 years, and they have 9,000 hours work-based hours experience. Then we wouldn't ask them to become a prospective apprentice or become a level challenger, providing that they meet the requirements and their application is approved. Then they could challenge the certificate, and on the completion of the exam, become a journey person at the end of that, and then continue to work in the trade. We don't need them to go through the apprenticeship pathway, providing that they have the experience within their chosen job. Just a few breakdown of each of the categories a little bit more. The real big thing for the level challenger is that, like I said, we want to take the experience that an individual brings into a trade, and by having this option, with the individual can enter the most appropriate apprenticeship level. Like I said, if they come with 3 or 4 or 5 years, that's a good thing, and we want to acknowledge that, and we want to make sure that someone can get into the correct pathway and not have them go. And then the other benefit is it's a fast track to certification. They maybe come in at a level 3, finish level 4, and then they've got their certification. So it is a really good option for people that have something. Yep, next slide, Anila, sorry. And then just a bit of an overview of the hours that you would be looking at. So if you have 1,800 to 3,600 hours, you'd probably be around a level 1, 3,600 plus, you'd be a level 2, and then 5,400 hours, you'd be level 3. One thing that we do have on our website, and if you navigate to the level challenger page, there's self-assessments for individuals to take. Based on your hours that you have, you would take the appropriate level challenge self-assessment, and that will give you an idea of whether you are at a level 2 or a level 3. You have to get 65% mark on that self-assessment. So if you think that you should be a level 3, you've got the hours, but you take the self-assessment and you're well under 65, then maybe it's appropriate for you to go back to a level 2. Try and take that level 2 self-assessment, and based on your score, see where you're at there. It is a requirement that if you are going to be a level challenger, you have to do that self-assessment and you have to get over 65 to have an application approved to take the exam. Experienced worker, this is the individual that has 9,000 plus hours. Really, the benefits of that is you can become certified without having to complete or start an apprenticeship. Like I said, we want to really lean on the experience that people bring into the trades. We want to acknowledge that. It's a great thing to have. And with the experienced worker being able to challenge the certification, you can bring all that experience across and be certified at the completion of an exam. Just a bit more around the trade qualifier, the person that can challenge the exam. You have to have more than 9,000 hours, and this is verified by third-party assessors that SkilledTradesBC use. You can't just say that I have 9,000 and expect to sit an exam. There's a lengthy process to go through to be put in front of an exam, and that's done on purpose. We want to make sure that we're not setting anyone up for failure for that, and make sure that they're really suited and ready to sit the exam. So you do get verified. You've got to meet the minimum required of work-based training. And another big thing is you've got to have 70%, at least 70% exposure to scope of trade. So if you're working in a steam fitter, pipe fitter, and you're only doing maintenance, which is maybe 10 or 20% scope of trade, it may be a bit of a struggle. You may need to take a refresher course or some upgrading to be able to challenge the exam. So we really want to ensure, like I said, the right people are sitting in front of these exams and we're setting them up for success, and having exposure to 70% scope of trade will enable that to happen. And the last point there, verifiable work experience. You have to sign forms. Your employer has to sign forms to vouch that you have those hours to done. So like I said, it's quite a thorough process, and we do it on purpose to make sure that we're setting people up for success for the exams. Just a bit of an overview. If you are working in one of these trades and you are uncertified and you do want to challenge the certificate, not the level challenge, but challenge the whole thing, these are the hours that you'll need to have and have verified. I won't go through them all. You can see them on the slide there. I will note that gas fitter A and gas fitter B is less, because there are some other trades that you can take where you get credit for level 1 of gas fitter. So steam fitter, pipe fitter, refrigeration and plumbing's another one. There are components of gas work in there. So if you come into one of the trades, skilled trade certification trades, and you have a certificate for refrigeration, but you want to be ticketed for gas B as well, then the requirement is that you have an additional 4,500 hours for that. Lastly, one thing that we do have is we have the ability to issue a temporary authorization for someone that has at least 36,000 hours work experience. This would be for someone that is in the twilight of their career and is potentially looking at getting off the tools in the next couple of years. This would be an option for someone. We wouldn't ask them to sit an exam. We wouldn't ask them to go through an apprenticeship. But if they can prove that they have 36,000 hours verified the same way as the challenge process, then we can issue people a temporary authorization. That temporary authorization is valid for 5 years, but it's only valid up until 2028. So as of December 1st, 2023, if you're an employee or as an employer and you have some employees that fit this category, they can apply for this temporary authorization December 1st, 2023, and this will allow them to work for 5 years. But if they apply for this and they get it in, say, 2026, then the temporary authorization will only be valid for 2 years, because after 2020, at December 1st, 2028, we won't be issuing any more of these. So if this is an option for someone that has 36,000 hours, they're looking at getting off on the tools in the next couple of years, please be proactive with this and get the application in at the end of the year. And everyone will get notification when the applications are open. So nothing to action right now. For an employer, we know that having certified people in your business is good for business. It helps build a strong labor force, fulfills your hiring needs. And as I always say, like, it's a benefit to actually promote your business and say, hey, we are using skilled trade certification qualified people. It gives the public a bit of peace of mind and shows that, you know, you're supporting the apprenticeship system and the trade system, and by being part of this, it's a good thing to tell people, I think. One of the things, the main thing with skilled trade certification is the scope of work that someone does. So what skilled trade certification means is that anyone that is doing the tasks and activities within scope of work of a trade has to be either a registered apprentice or a certified journey person. We know that there's going to be some grey areas in there where you may have labourers helping out, which is fine. But what we say to employers at the moment is just be wary that those uncertified people, if you can get them on a pathway to certification, please do it. It'll just benefit everyone. But if that is not an option, or that is not what the worker wants to do, as an employer, you have to be very careful of the tasks and activities they do. If they're doing really big scope of work, like tasks and activities that may be equal to an apprenticeship in a level 2, level 3, or level 4, that won't be able to happen anymore. But we want to be really clear, you can still have labourers helping. You just have to be mindful of the work that they do. With the introduction of skilled trade certification comes a ratio. The ratio is 2 to 1. So for an employer, for every 2 apprentices that you have to have 1 journey person to work with them. A few points about this. Level 4 apprentices are not included in your ratio count. So if you have, let's just say, if you have 3 apprentices, you have a ratio of 3 to 1 in terms of 3 apprentices, but 1 journey person. But those apprentices, you have a second year, a first year, and a fourth year, you meet the ratio of 2 to 1, because that fourth year is excluded. And what we deem as a fourth year is a third year apprentice that has completed all their work-based hours and technical training. They've completed all the requirements of a level 3. They don't have to be enrolled into a level 4 program. As long as they've completed every requirement in level 3, then they will be counted as a level 4 apprentice. The other person that is excluded from the ratio is anyone that works under a temporary authorization for like a trade qualifier, people that are challenging it. They will be excluded as well. And lastly, anyone that hires or takes on school work experience students that have a trade component of their program, if you bring them into your organization, those people will be excluded from the ratio as well. We really, really can't emphasize enough how important it is to give school students, whether it's at a school district or people doing a foundation program, trades experience in your workshop. That's the only way that we're going to build this talent pool, is if we get more people into the system. And if you are willing to take people in, we will not punish you for that. These people will be excluded from the ratio. We really want to encourage as many employers to reach out to school districts, give people the opportunity to come in and maybe do a day or a week's work experience and get a real feel for the trade. So if you do that, they will be excluded from that. In terms of who is the supervisor, well, obviously it's the journey person that you have, as if the apprentices are being supervised by a journey person. The other person that can supervise apprentices is that individual that has that 36,000 hours and has been issued a temporary authorization from SkilledTradesBC. I want to be really, really clear with everyone. Just because you have the 36,000 hours doesn't mean you have a temporary authorization. You have to go through an application process to be issued a temporary authorization. So as long as you have that temporary authorization, you will be able to supervise. The other thing as well I want to be clear about is we have the ability to give employers an adjustment on their ratio. We know from our engagements, and you've only got to read the newspaper or watch the news, journey people are really, really hard to find. And as you get out to more remote areas of the province, they're even harder to find. So if people are struggling to hire journey people to meet the ratio, we have the ability to issue an adjustment. And it's going to be on a case-by-case scenario. And as long as employers are making an effort to hire, then that will be okay. If people aren't making an effort and they can't meet the ratio, then we have to have a bit of a different discussion about issuing a temporary an adjustment for the ratio. As an employer, what you can do, as I said, be mindful of the scope of work and the tasks and activities that uncertified people are doing. If they are uncertified and you think that they are doing a lot more of scope of work of a qualified tradesperson or an apprentice, get them on the pathway to certification. Maintain your records of qualifications to work. So one of the things in the new act, in our regulations, we have the ability to ask for employee records and people and their certification status and things like that. So what we're saying to employers, start organizing all of that now in this 12-month transition period. And then when we come out and do compliance work and later in the year and into next year, it's really easy just to hand us over those names and numbers, and we'll verify them in our system, and that's all. Meet the ratio. A lot of people do that already, which is fantastic. Our engagements, we've been out to nearly 1,000 employers this year alone, and finding by and large people are meeting that. If you can't, I would really recommend that you be proactive and reach out to us and let us know. You won't be punished for it by any means, but it just enables us to help you maybe make some connections with other people, service providers that are also looking to place employees or into companies. So just be proactive with that. If your uncertified workers wanted to go down the apprenticeship pathway, take them on, sponsor them. We can't emphasize that enough. The more sponsors we have in the province, the more apprentices we have, and it's just better for everyone. And if they want to be certified and they want to challenge, just support them on that pathway to their challenge. It's not an easy thing to do, to sit an exam. So really give them support any way you can and help them out, mix them up with other tradespeople so they can learn from them and really set them up for success for the exam. Leading off that and the supports that we have, the government's put a lot of money into exam supports and supports just to get certified. There's additional funding. Our exam fees have been waived for our skilled trade certification trade. So anyone that wants to challenge the exam, they don't have to pay the fee. We've got enhanced accommodations and learning supports. If English is not your first language, we've got translation services that can help. If you have some sort of learning challenges around exams and study, there's supports for that. And then lastly, the big thing is the province-wide engagement opportunities. As I said, the automotive trades have yet to come into play, and that will happen next year. But leading up to that, we need to get some things sorted around ratios and scope of trade and things like that. So we come out to industry and we ask for their input on that. So if you do see an email from SkilledTradesBC, maybe it goes to your spam folder by mistake, but open it up, have a read, because we may just be asking you to take part in a workshop or a roundtable or a webinar like this to get some input on some real key areas of the regulations. Once the regulations are done, we can't go back and change them. So if there's areas of input that you would like to have in certain areas now, or when the opportunity comes, grab it with both hands, and we'd love to hear from you.